Yeah, Ryan is an engineering manager here at RV and is going to talk to us about building high performance teams.
Hey, good evening, folks. So great products are built by great teams. So before we start to think about the product, we've got to get the team right. So what's the magic formula to a high performing team? So this talk is for people who might be leading teams for the first time, or people that have been doing it for a while but sense they could be doing better. So in summary, like building and running teams is challenging. That said, many have come before us, and you're not alone. Google in particular, through their project Aristotle, have sought to discover the key factors that were most impactful for driving high performance. And they discovered, across their teams globally, they discovered 5 dominant factors that drove performance. And tonight we're going to discuss each one. And so armed with these 5 factors, you will have a guide, a map, if you like, for how you can confidently improve the performance of your team or teams. And then we'll conclude with a couple of techniques for how you can track these properties, visualize them to help drive improvement within your teams. So in order of importance, the first factor was psychological safety. And this is defined as being able to show up at work and truly be yourself without fear of negative consequences of self-image, status, or career. So what happens when we don't have this? Well, people don't speak up at critical moments. So there could be someone may disagree with what the team leader is saying or what others in the team are saying, but they don't speak up through fear of retribution. They don't share ideas because they don't feel confident or safe. So ultimately, we're not getting the benefits of the wide breadth of experience in the team. People start to cover up issues. Maybe there are production incidents that people aren't reporting because they're worried they're going to get shouted at. And fear is a mind killer when safety is low. And in terms of sort of diversion and diversity and inclusion, if people don't feel safe and they don't bring themselves to work, then your culture's likely to lack diversity, and a monoculture might emerge where people are just trying to blend in with the leader. And ultimately, it leads to a team not learning from their mistakes, and they're doomed to repeat them again and again. So how can we foster psychological safety? So firstly, as a leader, don't blame when things go wrong, and be quick to admit your part in a mistake. Be vulnerable, open up about your blind spots, allow others to help you cover them up, and treat failure as an opportunity to learn and be better. It's okay to make mistakes. It's less okay to make the same mistake multiple times. Ask questions, encourage other people to ask questions, admit when you don't know things. This all helps to build a culture where it's okay not to know everything. It's okay not to always have the answer. And encourage dissent. So if you have an opinion or you have a plan and everyone's just sat there nodding, not saying anything, challenge someone to pick a hole in the plan, because it's very rarely do you have a situation where everyone's in agreement. And the key thing is listen. So don't shoot the messenger. So the next one is dependability. So this is team members that are able to reliably fulfill their commitments to the team, even in the face of difficulty. And when we don't have this, end-to-end delivery flow suffers. So we succeed or fail as a team. So if something in the chain of getting a feature to production isn't quite working, the whole team fail. And as a leader, again, you need to lead by example. So if commitments aren't possible, they need to be communicated proactively to reset expectations. All these things can reinforce trust, both upwards and downwards. And we need to remember that the vast majority of people want to come to work to do a great job. Therefore, if a part of the team isn't working well, focus on the system, not individuals. Are the ways of working optimized for end-to-end delivery? Does the team have what they need to deliver? However, that said, there may be times where maybe the team does have everything they need to do, and maybe you do have an individual that isn't being dependable. Then that's something as a leader you need to address very early on, because if that's left to run, then the whole team will suffer through lower morale. And ultimately, you need to hold yourself and the team to account. No excuses. So the third, structure and clarity. So it's really important that people understand the expectations placed upon them in a work environment. and how they're expected to work within the team. So when we don't have this, we can find that responsibilities might fall through the cracks. Was I supposed to be doing that? I thought Roxy was doing it. Or there's time wasted coordinating work. You might get responsibility overlap, leading to people doing the same thing, which is just waste. So some antidotes to this is many teams find it useful to have some form of team charter that documents the purpose of the team's mission, ways of working, what good looks like. Some teams go so far as to do a top trump style. These are the things people are good at, with strengths and weaknesses. Lara Hogan in particular has done a load of great work around trying to visualize roles and responsibility splits in teams. And the key thing here is it's acknowledging that responsibility boundaries can be fuzzy, but we need to sort of acknowledge when that's the case, and at the very least assign a primary owner. So meaning. So everyone wants to find a sense of purpose in the work they do, find their personal why. Why are we doing this? And people generally want to be part of something that's bigger than themselves. And the meaning of work can be very personal and can vary. For some, it's around financial security, supporting their family. For others, it's around helping the team succeed, or it could be self-expression or self-actualization, achieving their potential. And without meaning, motivation can suffer. We can lead to situations where it's why bother? It's all meaningless, and people will be unable to dig deep when the inevitable challenges do find their way within your team. So how can we find a sense of meaning? So as a team leader, you can start with your own personal why. What does the team mean to you? What does the next iteration of the product mean to customers? You can encourage others to find and share theirs, and ultimately, the work could always be framed in how is it helping your local business group, your wider organization, and ultimately, what impact is the team having on the world? And then that leads us to impact. So it's really important that teams get a sense that not only does their work have meaning, but it's actually having a concrete impact. For example, what impact are we having on customers? Are they reporting higher satisfaction rates? Is conversion improving? And the consequence of not understanding that impact is how do you determine if you've succeeded? If you have no way of measuring success, you can never know that you're doing the right thing. How do you know that the team's strategy is correct to get the outcome that you want? And then again, you can lead to this point. If people don't see that impact, people can question the why. Why are we doing this? That can then ultimately lead to lower morale. And a common tool for communicating and assessing impact is objective and key results. So short, clear statements of an objective that a team is trying to accomplish, and the associated measures, key results that once achieved, we can say that the objective is complete. So those key results could be revenue, could be profit, could be consumer satisfaction, could be conversion, could be number of signups, but it's something meaningful to your product that lets you know that you're serving your customer and you're generating the desired impact for your business. And these things should be reviewed regularly. Maybe it's every week as part of a team showcase, and it's really key to visualize progress. People often love to see progress bars, graphs up and to the right. Make it real. Speak to real customers, or speak to your customer service teams to get a sense of the work that's been doing and the impact it's having. They're the things that can make the team feel good. And what shape is your team today? I'm sure we've had a day in the office. It might be a time to reflect. Where is your team along these axes of safety, dependability, impact, structure and clarity, and meaning? And what you can do is you can run surveys to collect this data, and then you can use that to assess areas where you can look to improve. So in terms of this visual, there's some clear markers here that the team is seeking more meaning. And then for those that are managing sort of multiple teams, you can use the same technique to get a sense of sort of spread across your group of teams and understand where where you as a leader of leaders need to help other leaders and managers provide the factor that's in need. So in summary, there are 5 core dominant factors for high performance: psychological safety, dependability, structure and clarity, meaning, and impact. So where do you need to focus on your team? Thank you very much.
Thanks, Ryan, for that. Yeah, some really thought-provoking insights there. It's a really interesting talk. As mentioned before, if anyone has any questions, please use that Q&A feature in Zoom, and I'll make sure to ask them as part of this. I'll kick us off though with a question. I think this is a really relevant topic, especially in the current climate where we're not sort of physically working in the office with our teams. Do you think any of these factors become more important when working remotely, or perhaps new factors are introduced to the mix? Interested to hear your thoughts on that.
Yes, so dependability is a key thing at the moment, because we have a lot of people in the workplace at the moment are balancing work, childcare with schools having been closed. So the key thing here is sort of transparency around when you are available to work and when you're not available to work. So a good practice here is for people to sort of block out sort of calendar time where they may need to care for family members, parenting. Maybe they've got other commitments during this sort of unprecedented times. And again, that helps to maintain trust, that if you can't get hold of someone, you can see that, okay, this is their parenting slot, and they'll be online in an hour or so. So again, it's that it's being open with your team, what you are able to do during this time, and being there for your team, but being clear about where your own personal boundaries are and commitments is at this point in time.
Yeah, thank you. And how, going back to the number one about psychological safety, how do you make sure everyone's voices are heard, especially if people are more introverted or don't like to be sort of publicly recognized?
So one of the things you can do is you can ask people, you can build up a sort of a person profile in terms of what their likes and dislikes, in terms of how do they like to receive feedback, how do they like to be praised, how do they like to collaborate, and sort of tailor to the individual. If they're like, if in a workplace, in a sort of a workshop setting, if people aren't volunteering suggestions, and the role of a good facilitator is to start asking people who have been silent to sort of say, oh, we haven't heard anything from you, Bob. What are your thoughts, to make sure that people do have a voice, even if they're not as proactive as maybe some of the more extrovert people in the team.
Great. I think we've got a few questions submitted in the Q&A. One from Ben. How would you know how the company you're applying to will have followed these principles?
That's a great question. So a lot of this can be gauged through sort of questioning when you're in the interview process. So for example, things like psychological safety, you could start with how are incidents managed in your business, and depending on how that's answered, that, like, if someone starts to talk about, oh, we have this is how incident response works, people start writing up a document, and they document all the steps, all the observations, all the hypotheses, all the things that have been tried, and then at the when the incident has been resolved, if it's serious enough, we'll then do some kind of post-mortem to understand, like, the root cause, and the team will learn from it. Things like that will give you a sense that it's a learning culture. You can also ask for kind of in terms of sort of diversity. You can ask for diversity numbers in terms of the mix of the team. Like, is it, like, what is the ratio of sort of various kind of genders, races, all that kind of thing. You can ask broadly, how does your company work? And throughout that conversation, you might get responses along the lines of, this is how teams are structured, this is how we ensure alignment within team, across teams, this is how we measure impact, this is how we sort of marry sort of top level strategy to sort of day-to-day execution. You can also you can ask as part of the interview process, you'll inevitably be meeting a wide range of people, and a great thing you can do is you can ask the same question to 4 different people from across discipline and see if you get the same sort of answer. And if you're getting very different answers, then maybe that's a sign that people are sort of making things up on the spot. So yeah, the careful questioning is would be the key to this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and on this topic, actually, sort of flipping that, how has this approach to leading teams impacted your approach to recruitment?
Another really good question. So when you're working in this sort of fashion, it really makes you want to hire people that are happy to be held to account, people that do want to have drive and want to have a real meaningful impact. And so that when we're interviewing, we'll be looking for sort of concrete examples of business challenges or product opportunities that teams have responded to, how they measured success. We'll look for sort of concrete sort of measures, like this product launch drove £2 million of top line revenue doing ABC. We'd look for people that are we might ask a question, what does a good team look like to you, or describe the best time you've ever worked in, and we'd be looking for how aligned that is to the sort of principles and factors. But in summary, it would be we're looking for people that are looking to collaborate and work in an inclusive and collaborative environment. We're looking for people that are dependable and happy to be held to account. We're looking for people that are seeking to do something sort of meaningful and have an impact.
Great. We have another question in the Q&A from Jordan. Where do you feel the developer industry has the most capacity to improve on the performance factors you've outlined?
It's going to vary. I would say a mixture of impact and psychological safety. So impact. So a lot of sort of companies, still have a sort of a business IT divide, where by the time the work gets to engineers, it's so far removed from the business problem, it just becomes a technical endeavor. That model is clearly, it's on its way out, but it still exists. So we're seeing the vast majority of companies now, especially post-COVID, have accelerated all their digital sort of digitization initiatives. So I think over time that will become less and less of an issue, where the boundaries between what is business and what is technology just become increasingly blurred. And then on the psychological safety front, engineering as a whole, in STEM as a whole, even outside of engineering, around 13% of people are non-male. So we still got a long way to go in terms of industry-wide, in terms of having teams that are diverse and promoting that people can come to work and be themselves, which is something that RVU we're very keen on sort of promoting that, and have an environment where people can come and be themselves at work. We've still got somewhat a long way to go ourselves, but as an industry, there's lots to do here.
Yeah, and I'm quite interested actually in the point around impact and measuring success and measuring high performing teams. Could you elaborate a bit on how you sort of use the results of the survey that you conducted to yeah, and how you
Yeah.
actually implement those.
Yeah, so essentially, what we've done is when we run these surveys, every team lead will get the results, but then we've got broad sort of suggestions as we've gone through tonight, that if a team was say scoring low on meaning, then what we would do is we would make sure that the team leader, was aware of the tools that they can use to improve meaning. So what this has done is it's also allowed us to aggregate across the business to sort of understand, there might be, like, no team is perfect. Some teams will be better at the vision and the impact. Some teams will be better at the structure and clarity. So it will basically be pairing up team leaders with other teams that have, in the area where they're sort of weaker, they can talk to someone who's achieved a higher score in that area to get some tips and advice on how to improve. And then collectively, as we're doing that, we'll collectively improve and raise each other up.
Great. Sorry, I've just seen we've maybe got a minute left to answer these last two questions in the Q&A. One from Patrick, which is, doesn't making people talk more make them retreat more and even dread meetings? And then one from Harry, which is about top tips for a junior who wants to contribute as much to the team as possible in this regard.
Okay, so the first one is forcing people to talk more, going to force them to retreat. Potentially, I think they would be sitting down with that individual to understand, in what forum do they want to contribute, and being respectful that maybe they're not going to be vocal in meetings, but they would rather send an email afterwards, or they'd rather talk about something independently. Equally, I think it would be the duty of the team lead or the manager to sort of coach that person through the fact that the best time to have your biggest voice is when the conversation is happening, because what you don't want to do is, the conversation is happening, it's going in one direction, you feel something else, and you're only raising it once the decision has been made. So it would be a case of a balance, really, trying to find what forums does that person feel best able to contribute, but also coaching that person through perhaps any kind of communication challenges, such that they can have their voice in mediums that matter. And there was a second question around a junior developer having most impact. So I would say that across all of these things, like regardless of level of seniority, I think it would be a case of, first and foremost, sort of educate yourself around that these things exist. So there's been loads of sort of research around what makes sort of good teams, and I think by educating yourself, you'll have a greater empathy for the tools and techniques that your leaders are trying to use, but also to never be afraid to sort of point something out. Sometimes the least experienced person can come to a situation with the beginner's mind and can just see something that others can't see because they're just blinkered from years of experience working in a particular way. So to never be fearful of sharing your view and opinion.
Great, thanks, Ryan. Hand over to
pleasure.
Jonathan now.